What's up, everyone? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. I wanted to talk today about the Golden State Warriors because I kind of talked about them a couple of weeks ago with Steph Curry kind of going off and what the rest of their season looks like, but I didn't really get too much into the specifics of their schedule and the tiebreakers and where they might finish in the standings. So I kind of wanted to do that just to put a bow on the rest of the Western Conference and kind of finish off that kind of little preview for the bottom half of the Western Conference playoffs. So we're going to talk about Golden State today. So here's the West standings as I record this. The Blazers-Lakers game just wrapped up literally like 2 minutes ago. Right before I clicked record, was watching the finish of that game, and the Blazers ended up winning that. So that pushes the Lakers into the 7th spot and into the NBA play-in tournament, and that is certainly very interesting because we kind of talked about them the other day, but having the Lakers in the play-in would be certainly very exciting, and if they do end up playing Steph Curry and the Warriors, that would be a very, very exciting game, and I'm sure would be one of the most watched NBA games in the history of the league, I'm sure. So, and if the season ended today, that it would be what would happen, and we would have Lakers Warriors in the NBA play-in tournament first round. Winner gets the 7th seed, loser gets to play the winner of the Grizzlies and the Spurs. So looking at it right now, it looks like the 10 teams that are in are going to be the 10 teams that finish there. The Pelicans, my head's kind of blocking it. The Pelicans are a couple of games back of that 10th spot. They do not have the tiebreaker against San Antonio. They lost tonight. The Spurs won, so they're probably going to be out of it. So we have our 10 teams here, right? And Golden State is in that 8th spot, and that's looking like that's about where they're going to belong. 3 games back of the Lakers now and 4 games back of Portland. They do not have the tiebreaker against either of those two teams, so it's going to be very, very tough for them to get up there unless, those two continue to really struggle down the stretch of the season. The Blazers do have a tough schedule. Lakers are, as we've talked about, they're banged up. So it is possible, but it's looking more likely that the highest Golden State is going to be able to get is that 8th spot, and they're just going to try to hold off Memphis and San Antonio as long as they can. Now, their main competition is going to be Memphis. They're just a half game up on the Grizzlies right now, and that's going to be tight. It's back and forth. San Antonio, the Warriors, do have that tiebreaker against them, and they have a game and a half up on the Spurs, and the Spurs, as we've kind of talked about recently, also have a very tough schedule down the stretch. So here's the rest of the season for the Dubs. They only have 5 games remaining. They have another game against OKC. They just played them the other day and won that game handily. They're going to play them again. OKC is doing the most aggressive tanking I have seen from any team in the past 5, 6, 7 years, with exception of maybe the Sixers that one season. But OKC, ever since around the All-Star break, even a little before that, they have just been trying as hard as they possibly can to lose every single game. So that's kind of besides the point. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the Warriors will probably win that game. If they lose, it'll be a disaster. And they have, all these are at home, by the way. These last 5 games, every single one of them is at home. They just started their homestand with that win over the Thunder from the other day. So they have all their games at home to build up some momentum going into the postseason. After that, they play the Jazz, who are still playing for that 1 seed in the Western Conference. They had a big win tonight over the Nuggets. Then they play the Suns on the second night of a back-to-back, who are also playing for that 1 seed in the West. So they could potentially play spoiler for one of these two teams. They get them on back-to-back nights, the Jazz and the Suns. And if either of those two teams lose, it puts them in a position where they might not be able to snag the 1 seed. So those are going to be big games for all these teams that are involved here. The Jazz are good, but they're still missing Donovan Mitchell, and I believe Mike Conley sat out tonight as well. So they're a little bit shorthanded, which makes them a little bit more beatable. And the Suns are obviously a very good basketball team, and they're healthy right now, and they're clicking. So that is also a super tough game on the second night of a back-to-back. That is going to be the Warriors' toughest game remaining on their schedule this season. Then they have a couple of days off, which is nice. They have the 12th and the 13th off, and then they play the Pelicans on Friday, May 14th. So Pelicans come to town. By that point, who knows where the Pelicans are going to be. Like I said, they're, 2.5 games out of that 10th spot at this point. And we just got news today that Zion Williamson has a broken finger, and he will miss at least, a little bit of time. He may be back by then, who knows, or they might just sit him for the rest of the year, considering that they're kind of out of the playoff picture at this point. It's going to be tough for them to get up there. It is still a possibility, but I think that's the second to last game of the year, so by then we'll know the playoff fate of the Pelicans for sure. I think we might know it sooner than that. We will have to see how they play down the stretch, but I'm assuming that the Pelicans will likely be in tank mode by then, which is good for Golden State. Then you have Memphis on the final day of the year, and that is a super, super, super big game because, like I said, the Pelicans are, or sorry, not the Pelicans, the Grizzlies are just a half game back of Golden State right now. They have played one less game. They have the same amount of losses, so it's 33 losses, 33 losses. The Warriors have played one more and have one extra win, so that gives them a half game up on Memphis. And if things continue to go this way, you're looking at that game being the deciding factor for who's going to be 8 and who's going to be 9, because that not only does it give one team a win and it allows them to close the gap there, but the Grizzlies, that will decide the tiebreaker between the two teams. So whoever gets that, and if they end up with the same win-loss record, then that will be, whoever wins that game is going to be the higher seed. So it's going to be big because 8 versus 9 is a big difference in the play-in tournament, because if you're the 9 seed, you have to win twice in order to make it into the postseason. If you're the 8, you only have to win that one first game, and then if you lose, you get another chance. Whereas if you're 9-10, you lose that first game, you're kind of screwed and you're out of it. So that's going to be a big, big, big game there. Last day of the year, Warriors and Grizzlies. Now, there's a chance that it might not matter, right? Assuming that one of these teams might lose a couple of games before then, and it might not actually matter for seeding purposes. That is also a possibility. But the way things are trending right now, looks like that is going to be the determining factor. So, my concern with Golden State at this point is consistency. As many of you might know, I am a Warriors fan. I've watched basically every single game this year. I've only had to miss like one game all year, and even then I've been watching the highlights afterward and stuff. I've pretty much seen 97% of plays from the Warriors this year, and this team is one of the most inconsistent basketball teams I've ever seen. Sometimes they look like the 2015 Sixers, and sometimes they look like the 2017 Warriors, which are obviously the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of basketball teams that I have watched in my lifetime. It's stark. There is a very big difference between when this team is playing well and when it's not, and you really never know which version you're going to get on any given night. Sometimes things are clicking on all cylinders, they're making extra passes, they're hitting all their shots, Steph Curry's going off, Draymond Green's going off, in terms of getting up assists and playing good defense, not going off offensively, scoring wise, because that's not Draymond's game, but you know what I mean, right? So this team is inconsistent, and my worry is that they will not show up for some of these bigger games down the stretch, specifically that last one against Memphis, but also that back-to-back against Utah and Phoenix, and then eventually the play-in game, whoever they end up playing. You hope that they would be able to show up and play well, but you just don't know with this roster because they have been so up and down all year, and they're also hit by some injuries right now. They're down a couple of bodies, and they've had a pretty short rotation over the last little while. Damian Lee has missed time in health and safety protocols. He actually tested positive after getting the vaccine, which is very unusual, but that happened to him, and he's had to miss some time, and so who knows when he will be back, if he will be able to come back at all this season, because from an interview that he had the other day, seems like that hit him pretty hard. So who knows if Damian Lee will be back. Kelly Oubre has had an injury to his hand and his wrist, and that is just about playing through pain. Now he will be able to come back and play in maybe a week or two, but by that point, who knows what's going to be up. Maybe if they lose in the play-in round, then that's the end of Kelly Oubre's season. We'll have to see, if he can be able to come back for maybe the last game of the regular season and the play-in. But the good news is that he will not require surgery, so it shouldn't keep him out too long. And obviously we know they're down James Wiseman and Klay Thompson, and Eric Paschall's been out for a month. Hopefully he's returning soon. We'll have to see if he comes back, maybe within the next 2 or 3 days. And so they're down bodies right now. We'll have to see if they fill out the roster. They are signing Jordan Bell to a 2-way deal and converting Juan Toscano-Anderson's contract to a full NBA contract, which it's about time. He absolutely deserves it. I love me some Juan T. So they're getting Jordan Bell in there. Perhaps we'll fill, a couple of these other roster spots that they have left over. Perhaps that's bringing back Gary Payton II. I have no idea. So, filling out the roster and just playing consistently and showing up for these big games is going to be key for Golden State here. I just don't want them to get tired out by having to play only 7 or 8 guys each night, just because that takes a toll on your body. And I believe in Steph Curry. Ultimately, I think he's always going to show up. He's always going to have big games, and as he goes, the team goes. So as long as Steph is playing well, they're in every single game, and they have a chance to do an amazing thing, whether that's, getting through the play-in round, potentially pulling off a first-round upset. I think this is a team that could be scary come playoff time. I just don't necessarily trust them to always play at their maximum capability, but if they are, this is a good basketball team. But yeah, not only is a Lakers-Warriors play-in game possible, it might be the most likely outcome at this point. It relies on a lot of factors. Not only, the Lakers and Golden State continuing to stay in their slots, but it also relies on Portland continuing to play well and Memphis continuing to not play well enough to pass the Warriors. So it might not, I think it is the most likely outcome, but it might not be, it's not guaranteed by any stretch, and there's certainly a realm of possibility where that doesn't happen. But Lakers-Warriors in the play-in game would be absolutely thrilling. And I think pretty much everybody in the world would like to see that. I know that, as a Warriors fan, I would probably rather play a team like Portland or Memphis, just because obviously they're not as good as the Lakers, assuming that LeBron and Anthony Davis are healthy. But for the sake of entertainment value, and if it's in the first play-in game, you still get another chance in the second one. And in terms of ratings and just the potential for, an upset of the century, I guess that would be. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, everything depends on the Lakers' health. But if Steph was to knock off LeBron in the playoff game, I'd talk a lot of trash on Twitter, and that's all I'm going to say on that. But yeah, I think that's about all I have on the Golden State Warriors. Like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell if you want to. Leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about the Warriors and their season. We'd love to hear your thoughts down below. But yeah, with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.